The biggest thing that I learned was the theory of constraints. So you track first and foremost, you track everything. If you're running a sales team in a sales department, you're tracking how many calls your reps are getting on, how many calls are actually showing up, your show rate, how many of those calls that show up are being offered. Of those ones that are offered and shown, how many actually close, right? And that's just to name a few. I don't want to get too crazy with like everything you can track, but you take that to all your departments, figure out what are the most important things you need to track, and then you measure those. All right, man. 2023 is over. We made it out alive. I want to talk about reflections, lessons learned in 2023, and goals going into 2024. So you want to start us off with, just give us from the beginning, from January. What were our goals going into January 2023, and then how did everything play out?
So I can tell you right now that it was nothing the way we thought it would be. And dude, that's just business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going into 2023, we had just had the best year of our life. We were on cloud nine. We thought our shit didn't stink. We thought we were like the business guys, right? That's how we felt, and we had some big goals at the time. 2022, we did about $2.8 million in revenue.
2.8 mil.
And then in 2023, we wanted to crank it up like, I don't know, what, do you remember what the exact
10.
number? We
was
wanted
10.
10.
Yeah, 10, because we announced we had a company offsite in February where we flew everyone in. It was like 20 people. We got this big hotel in Colorado. We gave this whole long speech, and we had catered dinners, and it was super cool. We're like, 10 million's the number. We're going to hit 10 million. Everybody was amped up to hit it. And then what happened?
Came nowhere close to that. And, I mean, we just learned so much in 2023, things that we would have never thought was going to come up. Like, we had thought we seen it all, right? Like, they heard all. If you listen to, like, one of the past episodes, you know, like, all the stuff we had to learn in orange window cleaning. But, I mean, just more money, more problems, right? Like, the problems just become different, but they're always going to be there. And, yeah, I mean, in 2023, we ended around 3.6 million. And, I mean, that's a little over a third of, like, our goal, which is, like, really sad to say. But all in all, like, it was a huge learning lesson. Everything that we had to go through to learn, you know, what not to do in the future is setting us up to hit 10 million possibly this year. If we don't hit that, I know for a fact it's going to be at least 7. So, yeah.
I think so, too. And the real shitty part, I mean, looking back, it's a W that we grew, at least. We almost added $1 million in growth.
Yeah, that's a win in itself.
Which is still a win, but except when you look at the bottom line, because in 2023 or 2022, we profited 1.5 million on 2.8. But then this year we profited it was like 5% net or something, like maybe even less, like barely survived. And there's a lot of lessons there. I think a big one was we had a partnership with a growth partner, and we had just come off of a year, the trailing 3 months of 2022 going into 2022 going into 2023. That Q4 month we were ripping like 450K a month, 460K a month, and we thought it was going to continue. And we brought on this growth partner to help us get to where we wanted to go faster. Except the problem was it was a revenue share, and because it was revenue share and we didn't anticipate that 450 to drop off, we started to the revenue started to dip, and we still had to pay the revenue share no matter what, because it's not a profit share, it's a revenue share. So that was really, really difficult, because what we didn't understand, or this is my perspective, what we didn't understand was what we were doing that quarter was really unsustainable, and really it wasn't compliant. There was a lot of things that were inflating our monthly numbers because we were doing stupid things like sending out discount offers for Black Friday, and um, urgency plays every single month, and we were just burning goodwill with our email list. And then revenue starts to dip. Then we still owe the rev share. Then we're really not the size that we said we were for it to make sense anymore. And then it got to a point where we had less cash in the bank than we had to make payroll, than we needed to make payroll in the next like 5 days.
Okay, hold up. I wanna ask a question because, at the time you must have thought, or we must have thought it was a good idea to do a rev share.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what in that situation made sense at the time, and then now looking back, seems like it was like not the best play.
I think it was just alignment as far as partnership goes. Like okay, does it make sense to partner with someone who is aligned on revenue growth? Now, knowing what I know now, no. But we didn't know that back then, because knowing what we know now, it's like, well, there's going to be good months, there's going to be bad months. Sometimes shit doesn't go as expected and you're going to have a down month. I would much rather have signed a profit share deal or a straight equity deal, but I'm still glad we did it. Like, I'm so happy we did. I don't want anyone to watching this to think like I'm complaining or anything, because we learned a ton. I just think for the size we were and the place we were at, it wasn't a good fit for both parties, because it was off of a very short stint of growth that wasn't going to be sustained. Because what we had to do in 2023 to fix it was rebuild all our infrastructure. We had to learn how to actually comp people correctly, because we were paying people way too much. We had to put in proper systems in each department of the business. Sales was the first one. Then it was customer success. I'll just talk about sales. Like, our sales team sucked. It was being masked by marketing and the unsustainable pushes we were doing in Q4. So we had to fix that. That was fixed. We brought in a killer manager who has a ton of experience, and he's been able to lead the team and train them and get them to close deals at a really, really high rate. Then we realized, okay, well, now we have our closing problem solved, but all the people we're selling, we're not extending the lifetime value, meaning we're not getting the customers that we already paid $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to acquire to pay us more money down the line. And when you have a really high cost to acquire a customer, well, you need to be extending the lifetime value, because we were breaking even on some of our deals. We weren't even making money on some of the people we were selling. So then it's like, okay, how do we extend the LTV? Well, we need to build another product, and we need to sell that product. You've never done that. I've never done that. So then what do we have to learn to do? Hire good people that know more stuff than us to be able to come in and build that. And so then that's what we did. We hired that person, brought them in, and then sales was fixed, customer success was fixed. Then that just left marketing. So now we're already seeing the dividends this year of like what that's done. But I mean, there's just so much that went into it that we were doing wrong. And the crappy part, and the kind of the cool part and crappy part is you don't really see the effects of what you work on until
totally
3-6 months.
Yeah,
down
dude.
the line.
Long time horizons is super important in business, because you make a change and it doesn't happen right away. Like fixing something in the sales process, maybe it's a little bit quicker to see, but like if you fix a product and it's like a 4-month, cycle for someone to completely go through the product, you don't know if that's really working until 4 months later. That's over a quarter of the whole year. So it's like, yeah, fixing all of these problems, little by little, which was required for us to get to the next level, which is 10 million a year, completely just like erase the possibility of hitting 10 million. And it's like, if we were so short-sighted and we could only see this year, like 2023, we'd feel like it was a failure, and we'd feel like maybe even shutting the business down. But since we had the ability to look long-term, look even like 5-10 years out, then we're okay with like a down year, which sucks, but like it was needed to hit 10 million the year after. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of forget to like take into account, like especially in like the new year. Everyone's making these New Year resolutions, like this year I want to do this and that. And I kind of got a bone to pick with New Year's resolutions for that reason, because we underestimate what we can do in a year. Or no, overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we could do in 10.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I think people just get caught up in, like, the yearly goals, whereas, like, we should be thinking 5-year goals and then working backwards from there.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
I mean,
go ahead.
I had a question for you. Like, you talked about a ton of problems. Like, how did you know what problems we should be fixing? Like, as a business owner, there's like 100 different problems you can fix in the business. So which ones are the ones that are actually going to, like, move the ball forward, get us to the next level?
Yeah. And I want to preface this by saying I want anybody listening to this to, like, really pay attention, because nobody talks about the L's. I've yet to hear a podcast where people talk about the L's, and you could save yourself a lot of money and a lot of time just by listening to what we messed up on, because we lost a lot of money this year. And at the end of it, we ended up making some money, but I'm saying, like, there's months where we lost a lot of money. And the biggest thing that I learned was the theory of constraints. So you track, first and foremost, you track everything. If you're running a sales team in a sales department, you're tracking how many calls your reps are getting on, how many calls are actually showing up, your show rate, how many of those calls that show up are being offered. Of those ones that are offered and shown, how many actually close, right? And that's just to name a few. I don't want to get too crazy with, like, everything you can track, but you take that to all your departments, figure out what are the most important things you need to track, and then you measure those. You need to be able to track stuff. And then once you have that stuff tracked, then you need to be able to look at the numbers and identify, okay, what is the one metric that's off that if I fix, it will have the most impact on the business. So, as an example, if I'm looking at the sales team and and sales are down, I'm like, okay, well, what's the biggest thing I can fix in the sales department? And I see our show rate's really good. We're getting lots of booked calls on the calendar, but they're not closing. I'm wondering, okay, I'm checking, what's the offer rate? And I see, or maybe I look at 2 reps. I compare 2 reps. I see, okay, Cody has, he's got 10 closes on the month so far, and Justin's only got 3. I see Cody's got an offer rate of 90%. He's offering 90% of the people that he gets on a call with, and Justin's only offering 50. Well, then it makes sense that Cody's closing more because he's offering more. I mean, so then I need to look at all the other reps and see, okay, is it an offer? Are we not offering enough? You know what I mean? So that's just one example. And that's easily the biggest thing. It can apply to any department of the business as long as you're tracking data, but most importantly, it can apply to your profit and loss statement. And I think that was the biggest thing, is looking at your P&L as, okay, on a percentage basis, what are the biggest line items that are taking most of the highest percentage of the revenue? So as an example, we looked one month and we spent $100,000 on ads in a month. And it was,
like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like by far the highest line item. It makes up the most expense, and other than labor. But our gross margin was already really good. It was already around 60-something%. So it's us cutting salaries or having to fire people wasn't really going to make an impact. But if we look at marketing, the next biggest thing, which was 35%, it was like 36% of our revenue was spent on marketing. What does that tell you?
That our marketing is just inefficient.
It's inefficient, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the problem to solve. And that's something coming into 2024 I'm really excited about, because now we monitor our P&L every week, and we're much more cost conscious on what we're spending money on, what goals and initiatives we're going to try to do, because what we realized in 2022 going into 2023 was we were making tons of profit. Like, we did 1.5 million profit on 2.8 million in sales, and our bank account was just growing and growing and growing and growing. And what that does, if you don't monitor that closely, you start to just throw money around real frivolously. And that's what we did. We started trying to get sexy and trying new things. Oh, this copywriter costs $10K a month. Let's hire him on. He must be good. It's just stupid. And you should get real religious on tracking your P&L and what you're spending money on, even if you're making tons of profit, because if you don't monitor it, it can get out of control really, really quickly.
That was a huge lesson that we learned this year. Were you going to ask a question?
I forgot what I was going to ask.
Okay. What would you say is like the biggest win this past year?
Dude, I would say December. I would say December was the first month we had, because what happened was we fixed everything I talked about. We started to fix marketing, we fixed sales, we fixed fulfillment, customer success, and then we started to see all departments turn into revenue producing departments. So before it was sales, we had to outsell every single month. It was like restarting, right? And AR got really, really good. We got really, really, really good at tracking accounts receivable and making sure that we're collecting a certain percentage of that every single month, which was not tracked before. Sounds super simple, but you'd be surprised. There's big companies out there that don't do this stuff. And the biggest win was seeing everything we worked on from the beginning of the year to the end of the year in December, and finally having our strongest month ever, with every department producing tons of sales. We released a lower ticket product to help more people start cleaning businesses, and that produced a bunch. We did really good on the front end. And then Accelerator, we helped a ton of people get into Accelerator and grow their business in December, and we're feeling a huge momentum shift, I think, in this year, which is really, really nice. Like, we're having a all-time record month in company history is what we're on pace for right now this year, or this month.
Yeah, feels great. Mm-hmm. And like, as business owners, we can be like optimistic, and sometimes it's at a fault. But I mean, I feel like, me personally, I feel like I'm optimistic to a point where like still feels like realistic, and I found myself telling myself every single month, this is a month, like, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better. Sometimes it doesn't, but like, when you know you're doing everything right, like how we were fixing all those problems, eventually it has to get better. Mm-hmm. And it did. Like, that was December, and like that was a huge win. Felt so good to not have to feel like the month itself was like an uphill battle. Like, it just was amazing.
And it was the holidays too. It was the holidays too. Yeah. So that's one of the slowest months, especially in our industry. But
in a lot of industries, yeah.
Yeah. But overall, man, it was I think it comes back to just don't quit. Just continue to solve what you can solve for, and it'll work out. As long as the supply and demand is true in your industry, and like people want what you're selling, it's always solvable problems. There's always a way out. Like, you remember sharing, like, we were up till probably 8, 9, 10 p.m. I don't remember, up late. It was me, you, and Gino, and we had less money in the bank to make payroll. We're like, literally didn't get off the meeting until we had a solid game plan on what the hell we were going to do to get out of the situation. And one of our competitors who did something really similar was in that exact situation the year before and went out of business. And it's like, there's always a way. There's always a way.
Dude, most people, they'd fold in those situations.
Well, for further context, there was that going on. I think we also had another 80 or so K of debt that we owed. We also had our first lawsuit. Was there one more? And Stripe was holding 50K or 72K of our money.
Yeah. Cards are just stacked against us.
Dude, that was heinous. Yeah. But hey, dude, we got through it, man. What about 2024 though? How you feeling about 2024? What are your goals? What do you think we're gonna do? What are you excited for?
I mean, that beautiful number, that beautiful $10 million, like, that's the goal for this year.
We're doing it again. We didn't learn our lesson.
We didn't learn our lesson, man. But that is the goal for 2024, and I mean, I'm feeling really good about it, because the ignorant Sergio in 2022 thought we could do that in 23 just because we had a few good months. But like, looking back on it, super unsustainable months. This year, things are a lot more sustainable, have like a way better foundation. All the right indicators are there. I mean, if I'm looking at what could go wrong, it really just comes down to like, can we start to acquire customers at a lower cost, which we are already doing, and then being able to hire great people and keep them. Mm-hmm. But like, we have like the best culture that I've ever felt since I started working. Like, probably everybody on the team has told us in one way or another that this is the best company they've ever worked for. Mm-hmm. So the fact that is so strong and we're working on the right things makes me feel good about this goal. What about you?
Yeah, dude, 10 million for sure. I think there's no way it doesn't happen given the numbers that we're looking at right now, especially adding in another channel, because we've had 2 channels this whole time: organic content, the stuff we put on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and then paid, which has been mostly Facebook and then some YouTube. And we've only been reliant on those 2 channels. Organic has been really, really helpful, but organic is still a little unpredictable. And so we're trying to figure that out based on like, okay, how many pieces of content do we post? How many sales do we make? And then also paid, obviously we're still solving for that, and we had to dial back we had to cut our ad spend in half, which is another lesson I want to caveat on, is most people will tell you marketing spend is the last thing you cut. And we took that advice to heart and continued to spend $100K every single month despite it not being efficient. And so what changed in December was we cut that in half. We cut it from 120 the month before down to 50. And what happened was it caused the whole team to really roll up their sleeves and make it work and do more with less and really figure it out. So sometimes that is the answer, despite being told it's not. So I just want to say that. But where was I going with that before?
I'm not sure.
Were you not listening to what I was saying?
I was, but then I started thinking about that.
We cut the ad spend. Oh, channels, right. And so because we've been so dependent on paid, and I do think we're going to scale back up to that 100K and be more efficient at $100,000 a month and potentially get to 150, 200K in spend per month, as long as our return on our ad spend is good. The third channel that we're adding is outbound, and taking our back end where we're really helping people grow and scale their cleaning businesses. And like, I think that's what our real sauce is scaling the cleaning businesses. And we're taking an outbound sales team and building that whole channel out this year, and being able to take Home Service Academy and do it completely privately. No one's going to be knowing we're doing this unless they listen to this podcast, and sell really repeatably to established cleaning business owners. So I'm really, really bullish on that. As long as we can crack that, which I think it'll take like 3 to 6 months to like actually crack it and get like repeatable results. I don't see how we don't hit 10 million, because I see that as being a lot easier to scale than spend, given that we're in a space where we're competing against the best marketers in the world who knows what their LTV is and how much they can spend to acquire a customer, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, with paid and with organic, those 2 channels are similar in the way that, like, you're relying on people coming to you. Mm-hmm. What I love about outbound is you are literally dialing someone's phone, and, you know, if we have a solution to their problem if they're a cleaning business owner that is not making as much money as they want to. Mm-hmm. So that's like 99% of businesses. So that's what I love about outbound. Like, once we crack that code, it's like
sky's the limit.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah. So I'm really bullish on 10 million. And then I like where we're at, dude. Like, we got out of 2023. It was a tough year, man. I'm glad we can talk about it.
Dude.
What about personally? You have any goals for 2024?
Personal goals, man. Well, I mean, I have a wedding coming up, so that's something that's big, right?
That is.
That's coming up in June, and weddings are not cheap. And you know, I'm in that boat where like I'm having to pay for the whole thing myself. So personally, I just want the business to be profitable enough for me to just like pay for the wedding and not have to like stress about, oh, I got to pay thousands of dollars for this wedding. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of my goals. And then the other thing is just like being able to do what I have to do to like get the business to 10 million. That's like improving the product, getting more and more results. Not that the product's bad, but I mean, dude, it's always going to be able to get better.
Yeah.
What else?
Golf?
I mean, golf, yeah. Dude, I want to be shooting in the 80s. So I just started, like, I'm about a year into golf, and right now I shoot about, like, high 90s, like 95
pretty
to, like,
shit.
100. Yeah, it's pretty shit, man.
I can't talk.
So being able to hit in the 80s, that'd be a pretty big accomplishment for me. But, yeah, those are my goals. And then, dude, this is, like, pretty crazy to say, but Jocelyn, you know, my fiance, she really wants a kid. She's been wanting a kid for like a while.
Oh, that is crazy.
You know, naturally after you get married, that's like the next step.
You think this year's the year?
In terms of like conception, probably towards the end of the year, like after we get married, it's probably gonna happen. So, yeah,
That's wild,
are
yeah,
some of
because you
my
need the
things.
time. Like, you need the time to. I don't know, because I've never been married, but I feel like you need the time with your significant other, your wife, to actually be a wife for a little bit before you go through the process of having a
I
kid.
don't know, man. Like we're in the boat where like we got together, and then about I think it was like 2 years in, we started living together. So like we've been living together for like 2.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's that different from like being married. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, I pay all the bills. Like it's like basically a marriage without officially being
Yeah.
married. So I think that's why she's not like really worried about that. She's in a rush for sure about it. Like
She's like,
she's
give me a
ready.
fucking kid already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Some of your
That's
personal
wild.
goals here.
I feel like we live two completely different lifestyles.
Not
man.
really, man. Not really.
No, I'm getting there. Goals for me, dude. Well, we talked about the company, 10 million. We do what I need to do, lead the company to the promised land to 10 million. I'm really excited about building the outbound stuff. And then personally, I mean, dude, I don't even want it. Like, I didn't even want to talk about goals, to be quite honest, because every single year I say I'm gonna get jacked, and I don't get jacked.
Dude, that's one of mine too.
It,
That
it's
never
both
happens.
of us, dude. It's both of us.
Yeah.
So we always say we're running so ripped this year, and then our lazy asses just half commit. We'll do gym like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, or whatever, and
Yeah.
like be super unstrict with our diets, and then it doesn't work out every single year. So I want to sit here and say my goal is to get jacked because I've been really thinking about it and I really want to do it. But I've told myself so many times I want to get jacked, it's pissing me off to the point where I think this year is the year. It's like how you it's like you were saying every year it feels like this month was a month. I feel like this year is really the year though, you know.
Just because like you're tired of this shit, like
I'm tired of not doing what I say I'm gonna do. Yeah. So, get jacked, and then that's it, man. I'm pretty fucking boring. I don't really have hobbies. Maybe pick up a hobby or something, but
I mean,
don't
dude,
really-
work is like one of our hobbies. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like we enjoy this shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
My problem with things is that even it could be something even like Call of Duty. It could be anything I pick up, any hobby. If I do it, then I'll go down a rabbit hole and it's all I'll think about. I'll start watching YouTube videos. I'll start buying products and whatever around it. And it just takes up too much brain space. And so that's because if I want to do something, I want to be the best. I'm telling you, even if it's freaking Call of Duty, dude, I'll be watching videos, best loadouts, tweaking my setup and shit, dude. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe this year's the year.
dude, I feel like that's pretty common for like entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Maybe snowboarding.
Well, you can only do that like 3 months out of the year.
Yeah, but just the season just started, so I think snowboarding would be fun. But overall, really company focused, business focused, because I think this year's the year we can make the business a lot more sustainable and implement everything we learned last year and run up tons of profit and enterprise value.
Same. In terms of like, I was saying like long-term goals. Where are you at mentally? Like 10-year goal.
Dude, we've tossed around the 100 million number. Like, we really want to exit a company for 100 million. Like, I think we're both on the same page where I think not even just us, but entrepreneurs in general, the Super Bowl of entrepreneurship is selling your company for tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. In my mind, that's a Super Bowl is 100 million. Now, if it's more than that, fucking amazing, bro. Like, that awesome. I'm not complaining. But I really want that feeling of building something from scratch and exiting it for a large sum. And I also hold the belief that is how you get extremely rich in this country. And I think we're in a good opportunity where in the next 5 to 10 years we have, the coaching and the education and the consulting company that is going to do a decent amount of revenue, but not have a ton of enterprise value. But through that, we can treat it as a big funnel to build a really, really banger killer software, a booking CRM software for cleaning companies, and also our own chain of cleaning businesses as well, because, we've helped do it to 1,500 cleaning companies at this point. Like, we're pretty damn good at it. We can scale a cleaning chain, and I think the opportunity in referral agencies and remote cleaning businesses is still really, really new, that not a lot of people are pursuing it or even know how to operate the business efficiently, because it's a little different than a normal cleaning business, that there is a large opportunity for someone to come in and build a massive chain of cleaning companies. You pull all those together, I think someone will buy that for $100 million, if not a lot more.
Okay. So this 100 million number, at what point do you feel like you even like had the ability to fathom selling a company for 100 million? Because like I don't think people understand. 5 years ago, we couldn't, or maybe like 6 years ago, we couldn't even fathom selling $100,000 in window cleaning services. Like that sounded crazy, right? So at what point did that change?
Dude, there's a point where we looked at next year and said 200K is the goal, and we are like, oh my god, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
But I can't pinpoint a specific time where it changed for me. I think it was just as you grow in business and you break your 10K a month threshold, you get to your first $1 million in a year, you start to break beliefs. And you also start to surround yourself with people who are doing bigger things than you, and you're like, holy shit. Like, I think I'm good because I did a $450,000 a month. Well, I just talked to a buddy who did 10 million a month. You know what I mean? And so it starts to break your beliefs. Like, okay, well, if this guy could do it, why can't I do it? And then you look at the math and you look at sizes of industries. And for me, it's just very logical. It turned to not really having to believe it was possible to just breaking it down logically and being like, okay, well, I mean, there's like you go on like pitchbook.com and look at all the deal data on mergers and acquisitions and companies that are selling. Companies being bought and sold every single day. Hundreds of thousands of them have been bought or sold every day. Our window cleaning customers were selling businesses for millions of dollars. And then I hear guys like Brad Jacobs. He's actually coming out with a book called, I'm excited for it. I think it's coming out next week. It's called How to Make a Few $1 Billion. And this is the guy that's built $7 billion companies in a row. And now he's on his 8th. And he has a whole framework, and this book breaks down the framework. And so he's the guy behind United Rentals. He did, so he looked at equipment rental companies and was like, okay, it's largely fragmented. I'm going to consolidate and roll it up into one massive company. And that's what he did. Built $1 billion business that way. Did that same play 6 other times. Now I think he's on his 8th, and he's identified building product distribution businesses. And he looked at thousands of industries, and he's like, okay, this one's largely fragmented again. I'm going to come in, take a bunch of money, roll it up, and build $1 billion thing. And so then at some point it turned for me from like believing it was possible to just like, well, of course it's possible. You just look at what industry you're in and what companies have sold for in the past and what people are doing and run the numbers, and then it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's a really good way to look at it. It's funny that you say that about Brad Jacobs, because I heard Mark Cuban say that a lot of billionaires say that they could do it all over again and they could be billionaires again if they had to like start all over. He said, but they're all lying. Like, most of them couldn't. Mm-hmm. But Brad Jacobs did it 7 times. It's pretty crazy. I think he's just built different. Well, I don't think there's a lot of billionaires that could do that.
I think it depends on the way they made their billions. Because you look at Mark Cuban, he made his billions off of one exit on like a software play, right place, right time. He even says it all the time. That's why he holds that belief, is because he's like, oh, I'm really lucky. He was in the right place at the right time, sold the live streaming service for a shitload of money, and that's what made him a billionaire. And then also he invested in the Mavericks really early on, and that appreciated a ton. But there was a lot of luck involved. And same thing with a lot of these tech startup guys, but there's guys who built $1 billion companies or just stuck with one business for an extremely long time. If you look at Bernard Arnault, I'm probably butchering his last name. He's fluctuated 2023 as the richest guy, like first, second,
the luxury
third. Yeah.
brands guy.
He owns Louis Vuitton.
Right.
And then Louis Vuitton owns Tiffany and all these other Bulgaria, all these other luxury brands, and it's just appreciated over time. And he has a bunch of his different sons, grandsons, family members running the different heads of the brands that he owns.
Do you think you're going to be a billionaire one day?
I don't think it's crazy. I really don't think it's crazy because, like I said, it's just math. And so if you stick with something for a really long time, I mean, I think it's possible. I'm going to sit here and say, I think I want to be a billionaire. I don't know. But if I find an opportunity where it makes sense, then I think it's possible.
Transparently, I think I have this like limiting belief, or like I don't know if this stems from like a place of fear or something, but I feel like you have to give up so much to become a billionaire. Like it doesn't feel like that to be worth like 50 or 100 million, but I feel like I've seen so many billionaires that are like 2 times, 3 times divorced, or like their kids hate them. I kind of stuff like with the family stuff, or kind of that saying it's lonely at the top. Do you think that's what it is for all of them?
I think you probably just hear the headlines, but it's just a certain percentage. Like Mark Cuban seems happy. He's got his family. I don't know if he's had to sacrifice a ton. I mean, there's always going to be sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I mean, just be the exception.
It's true. There's also that point of like,
I think it'd be, hold
if
on,
you're gonna-
I think it would be dumb to believe that, well, if I want to be a billionaire and if I want to have these big goals and aspirations, then I can't have a happy marriage and happy family. Like, both can be true.
yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, we talk about it. Like, to start a company or run a company that is worth $100,000 is not that different in terms of like the time commitment as a company that's like $1 million or $10 million, because we only have so many hours in the day. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
Maybe a billion's not that different from 100 million.
we were working just as hard when we were making $42,000 in a summer cleaning the windows ourselves than we are right now doing
If not
millions per year.
If not harder.
Yeah.
When we were making $42,000 in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Warren Buffett sits there and reads all day and drinks Coke. He literally writes about it. That's all he does is he sits there and reads. So,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for 2024.
We will see. I mean, one step at a time. This is going to be the year that we hit 8 figures. $10 million.
I think that's a good spot to wrap it.
Peace.
Peace.